naman. Ano, 30 sa kamera? Yaman ka na mati. So, hello mga kahopya. So, I'm going to read to you here the story of hope. A story of hope by Ellen G. White. Here, the chapter 1 of the story of hope. The revelation. In heaven, before his revelation, Lucifer, a high and exalted angel, next in honor to God's own Son. His face, like those of the other angels, was gentle and radiated happiness. His forehead was high and broad, showing a powerful intellect. His bodily form was perfect, and his bearing was noble and majestic. A special light beamed from his face, shone around him brighter and more beautiful than around the other angel. Yet Christ, God's Son, was over all the assembly of angels. He was one with the Father before the angels were created. Lucifer invaded Christ, and gradually he took upon himself the command that belonged to Christ alone. Angels acknowledged Christ as the ruler of heaven, his power and authority the same as that God himself. Lucifer thought of himself as a favorite in heaven among the angels. God had given him a high position, but this did not bring from him gratitude and praise to his Creator. He aspired to the height of God himself. He glorified in his exalted status. He knew that he was honored by angels. He had a special mission to carry out. He had been here, the great Creator, and the endless beams of glorious light surrounding the eternal God had shone specially upon him. He thought how angels had obeyed him command quickly and cheerfully. Weren't his garment light and beautiful? Why should Christ be honored like this rather than himself? He left the immediate presence of the Father, This dissatisfied and filled with envy against Jesus Christ, hiding his real purposes, he gathered the angels around him. He introduced his subject, which was himself, like one who had been wronged. He talked of how God has neglected him and given preference to Jesus. He told them that from the point on, all the sweet liberty the angels had enjoyed was ended, for has not a ruler been appointed over him, to whom they must ever afraid yield slave-like honor. He told them that he had called them together to assure them that he would no longer submit to this invasion of these rights and theirs, that never again would he bow down to Christ. Instead, he would take the honor upon him that God should have conferred on him, and he would be the commander of all who would submit to follow him and obey his voice. There was sharp disagreement among the angels. Lucifer has his sympathizers were trying to restructure the government of God. They rebelled against the authority of the Son. Angels that were loyal and true tried to win this mighty rebellious angel back to the will of his Creator. They clearly showed that Christ was the Son of God, existing with him before the angels were created. He had always stood at the right hand of God. His gentle, loving authority has not ever been questioned before. And he had given no commands but those that it was joy for the heavenly forces to carry out. They urged that Christ's special honor did not detract from the honor that Lucifer had already received. The angels wept. They earnestly tried to persuade him to give up his evil design and submit to their Creator. Up to the time they pointed out, everything had been peace and harmony. What possible reason could there be for this dissenting, rebellious voice? Lucifer refused to listen, and then he turned from the loyal and true angels, denouncing them as slaves. These angels, true to God, stood in amazement as they saw that Lucifer was succeeding in his efforts to stir up rebellion. He promised that them would be complete freedom. Great numbers expressed their intent to accept him as their leader and chief commander, as he saw that his efforts were met with success. He flattered himself that he would soon have all the angels on his side, and that he would be equal with God himself. Then all would hear his voice of authority commanding the entire host of heaven. Again, the loyal angels warned him, assuring him what the consequences must be if he persisted. He who could create the angels could overturn all their authority by his power, and in some decisive way punish their boldness and terrible rebellion. To think that an angel should resist the law of God, which was as sacred as God himself. They warned the rebellious to close their ears to Lucifer's deceptive arguments, and they advised him and all whom he had influenced to go to God and confess that they had been wrong, for even admitting a thought of questioning his authority. Many of Lucifer's sympathizers wanted to follow the counsel of the loyal angels and repent of their dissatisfaction and be welcomed again into the confidence of the Father and his Son. The mighty rebel then declared that he was acquainted with God's law, and if he did agree to submit and give slavish obedience, his honor would be taken from him. No more would he be entrusted with his high command. He told them that both he and they had now gone too far to go back, and he would risk the consequences because he never would bow in servile worship to the Son of God. He claimed that God would not forgive, and now they must assert their liberty and take by force the position and authority that was not willingly given to them. In this way, Lucifer, the light bearer, who shared God's glory, who stood next to his throne, by transgension becomes Satan, the adversary, the loyal angels hurried to the Son of God to tell him what was taking place among the angels. They found that Father in conference with his Son to determine how, for the best good of loyal angels, they could forever put down the authority that Satan has claimed for himself. The great God could have hurled this arch-deceiver from heaven immediately, but this was not his intention. He would give the rebels an unequal chance to test their strength and might against his own Son and his loyal angels. In this battle, every angel will choose sides for all to see. It would not have been safe to allow any who joined Satan in his rebellion to continue to occupy heaven. They had learned the lesson of genuine rebellion against God's unchangeable law, and this is incurable. If God had exercised his power to punish this chief rebel, discontented angels would not have been unmasked. So God took another course because he wanted to reveal his justice and his judgment clearly to all and heavenly beings. Where in heaven it was highest crime to rebel against the government of God. All heaven seemed commotion that angels were assigned in companies, each division with higher commanding angels in its head. Satan was warring against the law of God because he was ambitious to exalt himself and unwilling to submit to the authority of God's Son, heaven's great commander. All the angels of heaven were summoned to appear before the Father. Satan unblushingly announced his dissatisfaction that Christ was honored before him. He stood up proudly and urged that he should be equal with God. Good angels wept to hear the words of Satan, and his insolent voice boast. God declared that the rebellious should remain in heaven no longer. They had held their high and happy existence on condition of obedience to the law that God had given to govern the high order of intelligence. But no provision had been made to save those who dared to transgress his law. Satan grew bold in his rebellion, expressing his contempt for the Creator's law. He claimed that angels needed no law but should be left free to follow their own will, which would always guide them rightly. Law, he said, was restriction of their liberty, and to abolish law was one great aim of his taking, and stand in opposition. The happiness of the angels consisted in their perfect obedience to law. Each had his special work assigned him, and until Satan rebelled, there had been perfect order and harmonious action in heaven. Then there was war in heaven. The Son of God, the Prince of Heaven, and his loyal angels engaged in conflict with the arch-rebel and those who united with him. The Son of God and the true loyal angels prevailed, and Satan and his sympathizers were expelled from heaven. All the remaining angels acknowledged and adored the God of justice. Not a taint of rebellion was left in heaven. Everything was peacefully and harmonious again, as before angels in heaven mourned the fate of those who had been their companions in happiness and bliss. All heaven felt their loss. The Father consulted his Son about immediately carrying out their plan to make human beings to inhabit the earth. He would place them on probation to test their loyalty before they could be made eternally secure. They were to have the favor of God. They would talk with angels and angels with them. God did not see fit to place them beyond the power of disobedience. So let's proceed now to the creation. The Father and the Son began the mighty, wonderful work they had planned of creating the world. The earth came forth from the hand of the Creator, astonishingly beautiful. There were mountains and hills in plains, in, interpres, inter, interspersed with rivers and bodies of water. The earth was not one exhaustive plain, but the sameness of this scenery was broken by hills and mountains, not high and rugged as they are now, but regular, beautiful in shape. The bare, high rocks were never visible on them, but lay beneath the surface like bones to the earth. The waters were evenly dispersed. The hills, mountains, and very beautiful plains were abandoned, were with plants and flowers and tolls. Majestic trees of every description, which were many times larger and much more beautiful than trees are today. The air was pure and healthful, and the earth seemed like a noble palace. Angels saw this and rejoiced at the wonderful, beautiful works of God. After they created the earth and the animals on it, the Father and the Son carried out their intention, planned before the fall of Satan to make human beings in their own image. They had worked together in the creation of the earth and every living thing upon it. And now God said to his Son, "Let us make man in our image." As Adam came forth from the hand of his Creator, he was of noble height and beautiful symmetry. His features were perfect and beautiful. His complexion was never white nor pale, but ruddy, glowing with the rich tint of health. Eve was not quite as tall as Adam. Her head reached a little above his shoulders. She too was noble, perfect, and symmetry, and very beautiful. Although God has made everything in the perfection of beauty, and the earth seemed to lack nothing to make Adam and Eve happy yet God expressed his great love to them by planting a garden especially for them. They would spend a portion of their time in the pleasant work of tending the garden, and a portion visiting with an angel, listening to their instruction, and in happy reflection. Their labor was not tiring but enjoyable and invigorating. This beautiful garden was to be their home. In this garden, the Lord placed trees of every kind for usefulness and beauty. There were trees heavy with luxuriant fruits, rich in fragrance, beautiful to the eye, and pleasant to the taste, which God designed to be food for the holy pair. There were the lovely vines growing upright, laden with their burden of fruits. It was the happy work of Adam and Eve to form beautiful shady arches from the branches of the vine, and train them, forming dwellings of nature's beautiful living trees and foliage bearing their fragrant fruits. The earth was wrapped in beautiful living green, while thousands of fragrant flowers of every variety and color sprang up around Adam and Eve in rich profusion. Everything was tastefully and gloriously arranged. In the middle of the garden stood the tree of life, its glory greater than all other trees. Its fruit would keep them alive forever. The leaves contain healing properties. Now, the story now. Adam and Eve in Eden. The holy pair were very happy in Eden. God gave them unlimited control over every living thing. The lion and the lamb played peacefully and harmlessly around them or slept in their feet. Birds of every color and kind of plumage flitted among the trees and flowers and around Adam and Eve, while their mellow tone music echoed among the trees in sweet harmony as they sang the praises of their Creator. Adam and Eve were charmed with the beauties of their Eden home. They were delighted with the little songbirds around them, wearing their bright yet graceful plumage, and warbling out their happy, cheerful music. The holy pair united with them and raised their voices in harmonious songs of love, praise and adoration to the Father and His Son for the evidences of love that surrounded them. They recognized the order and harmony of creation, which demonstrated wisdom and knowledge that they were infinite. They were always discovering some new beauty and additional glory of their Eden home, which filled their hearts with deeper love and brought from their lips expression and gratitude and reverence of their Creator.